Misty, what have you been working on this week?
Oh, goodness. Well, hiring. I guess that's my jam.
That's your thing, yeah.
That's my jam. So hiring actually to expand the effort on the app.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And your app is, you got to tell us just summary. What are you doing with your app?
So the application is basically the digitized form of what I do for my other services companies, and it's the digitized form for 100% of the process. So it makes it extremely efficient that it's digitized, and it is just bringing, I feel like, employment into the future. And I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened yet. I know there are apps out there that do bits and pieces of what we do,
Right.
but there isn't one yet that is designed the way ours is designed, 100% of it. So, so the idea is to reduce cost, make better matches, and reduce turnover. So that's the idea.
Nice. Can we call it like Tinder for businesses, or are we not going like what's the?
You may.
That seems
You may call it that.
appropriate.
That's what it is, and I do refer to it as a kind of like a dating app.
Kind of
That's
a dating
the
app.
best way I can describe it.
See, we're working on a digital platform ourselves, and I won't go into too much detail, but it's essentially kind of like a dating app, or like a what's the most popular dating app? It's eHarmony, Tinder,
Match.
Farmers only.
Match.com.
I don't really know.
I don't know.
Harmony.
I don't know. Anyway, but it's that for essentially deal flow. So we're working on something that's pretty cool too. That's kind of new.
So matching investors with.
It's more. It's not for single point investors. So we're actually putting something together where groups can look at and share deal flow. So family offices, angel syndications like ours, big funds, like stuff like that, where they can actually all kind of like look at. All this is being recorded, so I got to be careful. I'm not going to say anymore. Offline, I'll tell you more. Offline,
But
I'll tell you more.
it like is it a gist of it, Matt? I mean, it's similar to Missy's thought process on it. We have a process that you've developed and the team has developed, and now the next step to make it more efficient is to
Because raising capital is a pain in the ass. It's a big pain in the ass, and so
Sure.
so
automating that process essentially with the platform.
viable deals matched with the right money, and other organizations be able to come in and put in money as well. So it's not one single person doing all the money. Anyway, it's cool. We're excited about it.
Funny you say that, because when we were first tossing this around in our heads, I had mentioned to my business partner, because we were talking about, well, we're going to need investors, and how, and so we were new to that whole idea of things and that whole side of things, having not ever had a business where I needed investors. It was something that we were interested to do, and we felt like we needed to do to get, to market in the right time and to be able to do all the things we wanted to get done with it. And I said, what, we could actually just turn this into a matchmaking app for investors and then the people that need investments. And he was like, yeah, I like the way you're thinking. And I was like, okay, so I don't know, maybe we start there.
That's awesome.
And then go into medical staffing. I don't know. And so, so it's funny. It's a thing. People need to be able to, come together, and this is the way people do it now,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, in our business, there's a lot of sidecar deals that happen, right? So I'm raising money for Good Dog Studios right now, right? Really, really cool. Little plug for them, Good Dog Studios.
Good Dog Studios.
Yeah. So it's a really cool video game coming out by the ex-co-founder of the Call of Duty franchise, and so we're running lead on that. And in my world, it's easier to raise capital for companies that already have a lead, that already have a company that's done the due diligence and has put money onto the deal. It gives other groups a little bit more of a warm and fuzzy, knowing that there's already someone that said viable, due diligence, love it, money, cool. And so part of the thing that we're doing is creating something that helps that process move a little faster and a little bit more efficiently. So anyway, we're working on that fun stuff. But enough about our little digital platform and stuff. So how long have you lived here in Brevard?
I was just trying to do the math a few minutes ago. Roughly 30 years, almost 30 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's hard to believe because I'm, only like 32.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's too much a laugh over there.
No, I
gotta tone it back.
Welcome to the Legacy Angel Network Venture Lounge, where nothing ventured is nothing changed. For Matt Helmenthaler, press 1. For member services, press 2. For real raw startup stories, press 3. For all other questions or concerns, please wait on the line in our
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Helmenthaler, and you're listening to Venture Lounge, after-hour conversations with founders and investors. These are the stories, insights, and conversations that you aren't going to find on the company website. Because the real lessons you learn in the startup world, the risks you take as an entrepreneur, the highs and the lows, the moments in your journey when no one else believes in you right before you break through, those are the moments that you just have to hear for yourself. So grab a drink and listen in to the men and women who are changing the world. Welcome to the Venture Lounge.
Welcome back to Venture Lounge, everybody. Nothing ventured, nothing changed. I'm Connor Sherman, creative director here at Legacy Angel Network. We always do that at the best time, when it starts to get a little bit dicey. We just go to the intro. And I'm sitting here on the couch with our founder and fearless leader, Matt Helmenthaler. Matt, say what's up.
What's up? Just tell me what to say. I'll say it.
Yeah, also same. That'd be great.
And tell us about our friend on the couch here.
Yes.
Your 32-year-old friend.
Yes,
our 32-year-old friend, Miss Misty. I'm pronouncing this right. Marot, right?
Correct.
Marot.
Very good.
Like the island.
Excellent.
Like the island.
Yes.
That's an island?
I think so.
It is.
I'm from Ohio. I don't.
It's okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Wait, are you?
Named after an island. So yeah. Anyway, so
I wish.
I can't tell if you're joking, Matt, or if you forgot.
I don't know.
Like Merritt
I'm
Island.
32 and own an island.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
This is going great.
Okay. Yeah. This is all right. No, I was. Yeah.
You look
it's not
generally
spelled the same.
Oh, okay. So
That's
you were
why
thinking-
it didn't land for me.
I got you.
I thought you were talking about some island in the
I was
Caribbean.
making a
I'm like,
local
how does this
connection,
guy
Matt.
from Ohio know about some island in the Caribbean named Merritt?
I was just making a local
People
connection.
ask me that all the time.
Yeah.
Any relation to Merritt Island?
Wait,
Sure.
like from where I
fine.
hail, or what's that? That's
Yeah.
funny, man.
Also, I'm 32.
So, yeah, look up the spellings.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, so you and I actually, technically, we met over LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
We sure did.
Back when I worked for Tim Reynolds
Oh,
at the Wild Manta, I was his BD guy, and he's a commercialization freak of nature. And he's, I actually didn't know what you did. I didn't know what your company did and stuff, but I was kind of reaching out. Hey, we'd like to, and just doing my typical BD thing. And we never really linked up, but we just kind of, I think we noticed each other there on LinkedIn at that point. And then years later, not that long ago, I guess, maybe several months ago, kind of reconnected on LinkedIn, and then you came here during the day with our mutual friend Summer, who's one of your business partners on this new venture thing, and then just reacquainted. You've been to a couple of events. We're at JA together, and all the cool stuff going on with that. And
that was fun.
She's just an amazing person. And so you had, I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you do. You've been here long enough. I mean, of your 32 years on this planet,
right.
30 of those have been here
Short.
in Brevard,
32 years.
But you have a great reputation in Brevard.
Well, thank you.
You do.
That's good to know.
You do. That was one of the reasons why I reached
Awesome.
out to you so many years ago. You have a wonderful reputation here in Brevard County. Everybody who knows you loves you to death. They love doing business with you. You just have this great reputation. Anyway, also a recent member of our network. I just thought, man, it'd be really cool. She's an amazing founder. She's an amazing manager. We're both ADHD.
Yeah.
It seems
solid.
It seems like this
Classic.
would be a fun guest, to have on the podcast. So Misty,
It could go in any direction. You
Yeah.
never know.
yeah. But welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Cheers to that.
I
Welcome.
love it
Yeah,
here.
cheers. Cheers.
I love
yes,
it.
Yes.
Yes. Chin chin.
There it is. There it is. So we are glad you're here.
I'm sorry.
We are very glad that you're here.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I do love it here, and I love your new little space.
Oh, thank
I mean,
you.
not really little, but it's
It's little-ish.
quite
Cozy.
nice.
It's cozy.
It's a great ambiance.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank
Yeah.
you. We worked really hard on that.
It smells
But-
amazing.
Thanks. I lit a candle earlier, and I guess it's still burning. But we.
And you guys make the best drinks.
Thank you, thank you. I worked really hard on that water you got going on there.
Yes. Well, later we're going to turn it into something different.
Yeah. We try and treat our members well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Misty, just give us the Wikipedia summary of what you're into.
Personally, I don't have that much time to do, things that I want to do. I do like traveling, surfing, spending time with my kids, and all of those kinds of things. But again, very little time to do those sorts of things. I do actually love my job, what I do. I like people, so this is sometimes I don't think of it as work. But I do love to work, and I do love to, be able to run my own business and, and meet all the people and develop strategy for my businesses and try new things. And I would definitely call myself, I do like the entrepreneurial type of lifestyle. And I feel like it fits so well our personalities, right? I can't really imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
So I do love my work. So I would say those are, I'm definitely into those things, and I have to make sure that, they're successful. So.
You see the look that we got when she said, "I have to make sure they're successful." There's a whole different
Intensity there.
That was intense. That was pretty fun. That was pretty great.
It is very intense sometimes, as you know.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
is. It is.
Yeah. So.
It's not for the faint of heart. This entrepreneurial thing.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
It's
I agree.
Yeah.
It takes a certain type, and but when I think you are well suited for it, it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For sure. So where did you grow up? Born, grow up, kind of give us some background on mini Misty.
Oh boy. I was born in Sarasota.
Okay.
A few hours away on the West Coast. It was basically me and my mom, and we did move a little bit with my ex-stepdad, just wherever his job took us. A few years. We ended back in my hometown, Sarasota, and then I came over here to go to school at Florida Tech, and so then I loved it here, and I stayed. I did have an experience coming over, going surfing with my cousin, when I was younger in high school, et cetera. And so that's how I knew about it. That's where I discovered it. And I said, I want to go to school there. And Florida Tech was there. And so I said, I guess I'm going to go to school there.
What was your experience at Florida Tech like? What did you go to school for and all that?
So I did psychology and then later on business administration.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The school, was Florida Tech relatively the same size it is now, or like what's the?
Oh, no, it was. I feel like it was maybe half the size. It was very tiny, and psychology was not popular. It was originally an engineering school to service the Space Center, and then they expanded out in the different degrees, and they had to include psychology to make it, to meet certain criteria. Yeah, and so I went to Florida Tech. I did not do the normal Florida Tech. Normally, people do engineering or some sort of science, science like that. And so yeah, so it was interesting going to school with, people that are mostly, going for something completely different, and there was a handful of psychology students. Yeah. And so they kept us like in the back 40, this little tiny building, like you had to like go
So
through
you were
the
like the
woods.
Dead Poets Society of the campus. You were just
like,
the little group over here. Okay. Yeah.
There was like 2 people, I think, graduated at my
That's awesome.
when I graduated. So it was great. It really was. And everybody just sort of knew everybody. It was just one of those. And I think, so since then, they have, sport, like a lot more sports, and a big, a pool, and so that's been quite a bit of growth for them. And then, the other side of university was pretty much, has been really well developed in the last, I want to say, I don't know, well, since I've been there. So, but it feels like a lot of that happened in the last 15-ish years. And so I like what's going on with it. It feels more diverse and more engaged, like,
That's cool.
For, all different kinds of people, different things that people like. I know that they have more people in more different kinds of majors beyond, engineering and science and math and that sort of thing. So it seems like it's expanding, and
That's cool.
and I think that's really good. And I like that they're keeping their focus. They have very high expectations academically, and I think they're going to keep that. And I appreciate that about that school, because, even though I didn't do the science and math track there, it was extremely academically rigorous, So, and I can appreciate that now,
Yeah.
as an adult, but I didn't then, yeah.
You're trying to get out to surf or whatever,
Yeah, I didn't appreciate it then. But yeah, but it was great.
That's awesome.
Great experience.
Do you feel like that experience in school with, being a psych major, you're surrounded by engineers, and engineers, there's all different kinds of spectrum of engineer, and I know that. Maybe spectrum's the wrong word.
A little bit of a Freudian slip.
It might be the right one. Who knows?
I don't know. Do you feel like that experience kind of helped you in? Clearly the business administration side, but do you feel like that experience in school kind of like helped kind of get you ready for what you're I mean, you have a couple of different staffing companies, and one of them is called Novel Engineering, right?
Correct. And
so-
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I know where you're going with that. I'm like,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So what was that? What was that? So was that your first company, Novel Engineering?
Yes. And so I would say 1,000,000% that psychology, I would say even more than my business degree, was the most helpful in, owning and operating a company like that, where you have people that are, their background is in engineering, science, math, and so those are their career tracks. And then also, it's basically a people company. You're needing to know how to best interact with people to help them be, the most successful that they can be. And I think Florida Tech was absolutely impeccable in that way. And so that's why I think I was very, very happy with how rigorous it was. They had their main focus at the time, and I believe even now, was, and my field of study was the behavior science school of thought, if you will, for psychology. And so I studied applied behavior analysis, and that is a very structured way of thinking about people and motivation, and it's a very granular way to learn about and understand people and how they learn and behave, and so it just was a really, really good basis for understanding people, what they need, what they want, how to help them best to get from A to B, and so it's really invaluable there, yeah. And so without Florida Tech, I don't believe I would have fallen into that those classes.
How did you identify this little niche in this community? Because there wasn't a lot of staffing companies going on in Brevard at the time, right?
Well, so no. I mean, I guess there's always the big staffing companies, right? They're not like the little, I'm going to call mine little because it's tiny compared to, these big nationwide staffing companies that are, just huge. So they have this ever presence, you don't know they're there, but you know that they're there. And so originally we started off doing both staffing and projects. So it all boils down to people and management and motivation and how you're orchestrating the tasks, et cetera. But you're still essentially providing another entity personnel. So we did start off with projects and staffing for about, maybe a year and a half. And then I acquired another staffing company. It's basically a staffing, yeah. And so with that, the projects fell off, and we became, we went from 20 people to like 90 with that acquisition, and it was a staff. So then our identity was staffing, even though we had started off doing projects and staffing. If that makes sense. So that's how things evolved for us, and so then we had original, and so that was any software, like engineering, IT, systems, type engineering. And so any company that needed those kinds of staff, we could provide those. And so that's really what our focus was. So we had little tiny engagements with, law firms and, all the way to, GE transportation. So, and just everything in between. So, yeah, small, medium, large. We could do project-based stuff. We could do staffing, all of those things. So,
what were your first kind of entrepreneurial steps to get into the company that you're operating now? From Florida Tech to identifying this opportunity. What did that look like for you? That realization of what you wanted to do.
So, it was really basically, I think, life showed me this was kind of our only option. We needed to do something that was going to work for us. And at the time, it just made a lot of sense to just go for it, because we had literally nothing to lose. We had negative things to lose, right? So we had this unique opportunity where we could, just go for it. And, if it failed, then, we haven't lost anything.
Yeah.
And we could also work on it full time. We weren't trying to do let's have our full-time jobs and try to dip our toe in and see if it works out. We were in a situation where we needed to do something that was going to make a difference. And we had, we were not comfortable in another situation. Right. We were already very uncomfortable. And so I feel like that was a huge benefit to getting things started, because we had, we could only go up, really, and put all of our time and effort into this particular endeavor. I
really love that word that you used, uncomfortable. We were uncomfortable. I think that is entrepreneur. I'm still uncomfortable. Same.
Yeah.
It's but that is a starting point. That's a great starting point. When you find yourself, you could be comfortable. I mean, you have college degrees. You could go plant somewhere and just be like, I can write out my days here, do my 401, and get very settled. And I think there are people that are wired and built for that, and the community needs all, right?
Sure.
But the community also needs people who are inherently uncomfortable, and there are sometimes it's situational, which I'm really curious. Was it situational discomfort, or was it just internal discomfort, or was it both?
It was both.
Oh, wow.
It was certainly both for me.
Yeah.
And I do see where people get into situations that they try to start businesses, as a side hustle, or they just get too comfortable, and things are just they're feeling very safe, and to have to jump from that to this unknown world is, it's got to be really difficult, and so. And I think the longer that goes on, the harder it is to
make a move,
want to try something new. But when you live in this world 100%, as you and I do, I don't know about...
they're on the journey with me.
Yeah, right. So we're all on the crazy train together, I guess. Okay, well, that's good. Good to know. Great company. I'm with my tribe. It is very difficult for us to think, we're going to we can go get a 9-to-5er and it's going to be fine. That sounds like a nightmare to us. And it's going to be a nightmare for the people we're working with as well.
Touche. Like, no, 100%. Like, that's, I was thinking about that because, I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, every now and then you kind of like look in the rearview mirror and say, should I have taken that risk? Should I, every now and then, and I have, and I've looked back and I'm like, I would hate going back there. I would hate to go back and to do that. I would hate it, absolutely hate it. And people would be frustrated with me. That's an absolute truth. That's an absolute truth.
I don't know if you guys, if you ever caught like any Gary Vaynerchuk's like work online, but he's a marketer investor, and what you said to your point reminds me of a bit I watched with him where he was saying like, I'm not afraid to take a risk because I'm not afraid to go to zero because I've been at zero. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not afraid to go back there and rebuild it. I think it's understanding. Yeah, sounds like Misty, you understood and were in that uncomfortable space for so long that, like you said, the alternative of taking that risk was much better. And a lot of people are in the opposite situation. Yeah. They're not in the best situation, but it's like just comfortable enough to keep them there. Right. Right. Where if you have, if it's like a sink or swim, that's where kind of great things happen.
Yeah, these guys moved down from Ohio.
Yeah.
Left very comfortable kind of a situation to join this little circus I started. And
I feel like me and you refer to our things the same way. It's a circus. It's gonna be great.
It's got a little bit of an edge to it.
It's not going to be boring.
No,
it's not going to be boring. We can all die, but we had fun.
But similar
the circus
thought.
minus the tights.
Right. Well, that's
at least for Connor and I.
Draw the line somewhere.
Minus the tights. I like that. But similar situation that we were in, where it was like, hey, this is we have a comfortable situation that we could stay in for a long time, or we could try to do something really exceptional with what these guys are doing, and become a part of their team. So. Same kind of thing. Sure. You just get that idea in the back of your mind of like, what if I don't do it and never find out? That's like that's scarier than taking the risk.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I agree. And I know not everybody thinks like that and like us, but like you said, like everybody has a useful place. Yeah. And just knowing what you want out of life, what you can tolerate, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Yeah. I think, that is just kind of the key to, making the best decisions. And, I thought at one time I was good at a lot of things I'm actually not good at. Mm-hmm. And, since I've been on this journey, things are much more clear to me. I know what I'm good at. I know what, where my lanes are, and I know what I need to hire other people for and rely on them for. And I'm very comfortable doing that. And I think the more I learn really about myself, the easier, decisions seem, and they don't seem as risky because I have an idea of what I'm doing, and just more comfortable in the entrepreneurial world. And so, yeah.
Well, to elaborate on that, were there mistakes you made early on in operation that you kind of ironed out or figured out? Like, what did that look like? That process of making things tighter, running a smoother business and scaling like you have,
hindsight is just a bitch. Like, so it is hard to like.
I love it, Misty.
Love it. That needs to be the quote on the bottom of this. Hindsight is a bitch.
It's just because, honestly, things now, you're looking back, oh, obviously I should have done that differently. What was I thinking,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is hard to see around every corner, and that's just also impossible because nobody has done these things before. We're doing it the first time, and nobody's been in our exact situation with our exact resources and our exact point in our life, and with these exact people around, and predicting outcomes is, you can sort of a little bit, but not every time, figure out which way the wind's going to turn or, whatever, so giving yourself some, grace for that is, I think, I've learned to do that over time. And also just being more comfortable in my skin. I tend to make people-based decisions instead of business-based decisions. And that I don't regret that. But I am getting better, and this is where I think a lot of my mistakes have been rooted in, and that is feeling comfortable and confident in my own skin, and learning to be more assertive and having better boundaries with people, and following through on decisions, et cetera, et cetera.
I can identify with that big time, and my therapist would agree. Seriously, to my therapist.
Yeah.
Therapist.
Cheers to our therapist.
Yeah, but it's so I grew up. I was very much in my house. It was kind of a rough little environment. And so I was always trying to protect my environment by pleasing the people around me, so I would not be the focus of negative things that were going on. And so, and what happened through that is that I became very, very aware of every room that I was in. Extremely aware of what everybody was possibly thinking or doing in that room. And I became very concerned about people, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, stuff like that. Sometimes it was for them, but sometimes it was just to protect myself. And so I became kind of a people pleaser, didn't want to rock the boat, wanted to find a sweet solution through every problem. And what happened with me was something very, very similar. Like, I'm learning how to be completely with myself, so that and when I say with myself, being able to be fully, no, that is good, and no, that is not. This is good for you. This is not good for you. I know this is hard to hear. I've learned how to do that, and I'm learning more and more how to do that. And that's really, I think, for people like us that are learning all that stuff, I think that's the best version of us that we can give someone, is being able to it's cool that you're so transparent about that. I think that's awesome. I think that gives other people permission to be transparent. But B, I think that learning how to be with yourself and learning how to stand there and be like, yeah, this is, I identify with this. I understand what it is. I recognize it. And being able to give people bad news and being able to give, kind of guide people in a direction maybe they didn't want to go, but it was the best was for them, best for you. Ultimately, that's better for everybody.
Yeah.
So I absolutely get it. That way of thinking and that personality thing in me. Definitely, it's been good at times in my life. I think there's times where you needed that to protect yourself. And then there are times where it's like, okay, the war's over. You can sit down now, and I don't have to, and it's, yeah. So it's, but I respect it. I absolutely understand that.
I think we're the same person, Matt. Yeah. So you're just describing things, and I was like, yeah.
You're definitely
exactly.
less hairy than I am.
Yeah.
It's
Misty, from what you've learned from that, like your experience operating in the ways that you feel like you've held yourself back, and what you've looked at, do you have advice for other entrepreneurs on how they can prevent some of those same pitfalls? I mean, how are you working through that yourself?
It's so much easier said than done, because I might know exactly what I should do, exactly what I should say, but having the, but doing it is just different. It's a different thing. And so I would say practicing, boundaries and how to talk to people, how to deliver not great information, if that is in fact an issue for them that could hold them back, I believe practice is gonna really help them. So, finding opportunities where they can practice, and even in I don't want to say false situations, but just even practicing when there's not a problem,
Just running yourself through some kind of scenario.
Yes, that's what I mean. Sorry.
No.
But practicing and conflict resolution. How to phrase those things, and I think it sounds easy. It's not, because every situation is different, and you can't. So you don't always know exactly how to handle it, or exactly, you can't practice that same scenario, what's going to happen. But just throwing yourself out there, just doing it anyway, having support, having somebody with you to help if they're better at it than you, and so comes back to just sort of staying in your lane, knowing what you're good at. So those are a couple of things that I tend to do. I'll have somebody with me, or I'll have somebody else who's really good at that to handle that. If I do have to deliver difficult information, I will think about what I want to say beforehand and that sort of thing. So, so those are just a few things. And then I don't know, maybe I'm just old now because I'm 32. And so I just don't care so much what people think about me. But yeah, no, I think there is also that element of, you're just mature, you've matured and you've had a lot of life experiences, and it just, everything is just easier, I think.
I like your point talking about, you said, if you do have a little bit of fear about something, doing it anyway, if you know it's the right thing to do. I think sometimes fear is a really good indicator that that's the right way to go.
Yeah.
It's the right way to go.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's also going to suck.
Yeah. It might suck a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
there's been. I mean, I think this is a lesson that I think it's a lifelong lesson. We're always going to go through things that suck,
Right.
but we're going to go through them. We're going to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. And even if you don't, you don't. But I've been through a ton of tough things in my life. But now I'm sitting on a couch on a podcast, and sometimes you can't imagine your way past it. But if you think hard and long enough, you think, well, yeah, but last year I went through, and here I am. And it's, if you can stop and be with yourself enough to be just kind of be like, yeah, it's gonna suck,
Right.
and then it won't.
Right. Yep. Because if we're
Transcendence or
doing it,
something.
yeah. And I mean, honestly, I mean, sometimes, the management part of things aside, we are all doing it, right? And that means we can continue doing it.
Yeah.
So even though it's scary and things are hard and unpredictable and absolutely chaotic sometimes, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so we can continue to do this. We can always do this, and we're going to find a way because I think that's just probably who we are as people.
Yeah.
And
this is something that I've found. I mean, we're a Legacy Angel network. You really could take the angel out of it, even though we do some angel investing. It's what we have is a very powerful network, because what we ask all of our people to do, we do it as a team here, but we ask all of our members, all the people that we go down a path with, we're going to bend our stuff to you, and you bend your stuff to us, and we're going to do some cool shit. Like that's and that's really what it boils down to. So I mean, if you have a problem or you have you need a solution, there's a plethora and a motley crew of people in Brevard that want to be asked, and as long as you have a defined problem, they can help you come up with a defined solution. And and that's something that we see day in and day out. I was just sitting with a couple of my partners at lunch, Chuck Smith and Scott Washburn. And I was going through a couple things with them, and they just spouting off all of this wisdom. I didn't have a notepad, but if I did, I would have been like, hold on.
Yeah, right.
Because it was helpful, because they are everything that I'm not. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. And if I don't know what my weaknesses are, I'm surrounding myself with people who will tell me what my weaknesses are. And, and that's, I mean, that's the power of what you're talking about. Like you were talking about bringing in people that handle certain things because you don't do, and then you surround yourself with the right people. And that's a powerful tool. And I think anyone starting a business, anyone that's going to be an entrepreneur, look at your network. Do you have the support in place to start that journey, or to do that journey, to begin that journey, to continue that journey? Do you have that? Or is everybody around you kissing your ass?
Right.
That's what you don't want.
And that's a problem.
That's a problem.
I still rely heavily on people for strategy, advice, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So my strength really is in this community, and this community is always willing to give, and give back. So I really appreciate it for that.
It's a cool place to live. It's a cool place to raise a family. And speaking of family,
Yes.
you have some kids.
I do.
Tell us about your kids.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, they're teenagers.
Yeah.
So I feel like that covers it.
Enough about them.
Yeah. They're just in full teenager mode. So they're great. I have a daughter, she's 14. I have a son, he's 16. They are much, much more intelligent than I am. And this is becoming very problematic in my happiness as an adult. Getting back to this whole boundaries thing.
My wife is brilliant, but it's the same problem. Like, our kids are just, we get duped by them all the time. I mean, now granted, we're about to be empty nesters. We're like that close, but no, they continue to dupe us.
Yeah.
Matt, you have to ask Misty the big question.
Oh, the big question.
Yeah.
This might be a little uncomfortable. I'm just kidding. No, it's a very no. I ask
made
everybody.
it this far, Misty.
It won't get any more
Bring it
uncomfortable
on.
than it's already been. I promise. But I ask everyone this question because people that watch our little show here, some of them are already entrepreneurs, some of them are already successful business people and seasoned, kind of business veterans. But as we grow, I mean, we want people more and more to look at our guests and be like, they did it. And be inspired to go do it. And every human being has this internal thing in them that kind of like helps them go right or helps them go left. And so my question's kind of two-part. Like, what's your, do you have like this little moral compass that you could just say, hey, yeah, I kind of abide by this and just how I live? That's the first question. Second question is, what advice would you give to a entrepreneur or future entrepreneur, someone just starting out? What kind of like little wisdom could you maybe drop to them as they're starting to go?
So I would say my moral compass, it really comes from, I try to treat other people how they want to be treated, and and coupled with how what is also in their best interest. So I think it's sort of a two-part, maybe even a 50-50. What I would find to be ideal. I don't think I do a 50-50 there. Even as mature as I think I've become.
As a 32-year-old.
Yeah. Yes, I'm 32. And so just and how I treat people, and I draw on just my value of people from and how to just try to do the best I can for them from my history, and my childhood seemed very similar to yours, and then still honor myself, having boundaries for myself, and I think there's an art and a science to it, and I just try really hard to focus on people first, and I don't think and I'm not focused on making $1 bazillion. I'm focused on helping people, and I'm focused on just wanting to do the right things for them. So it's really funny. I've never been super focused on money. I'm not like attracted to people with money. I'm not like, I've never set out to become a millionaire or anything. It was a kind of just, the money sort of just followed.
Right.
My approach was this, and then the money just sort of, then the business came, and then, and that seemed sad. That is great for me. I think I have a very different idea about, business and money, and than maybe a lot of other people do. So that's never been the end goal. Like, I really just want to help people, and that's what I set out to do in the best way that I knew how. And so that's where all of this sort of erupted from. So I think that's kind of my moral compass and how I make decisions. And because I could have a lot more money in the bank than I do.
Right.
Like a lot. And I always say this is why I'll never have probably $1 bazillion, because I can't make decisions that are based solely on financial decisions.
On the bottom line, yeah.
Yeah. That might be the death of my companies at some point, but I guess that'll be that, and I don't know. But I do very highly value people, and that's just my focus. If I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting out in this county, I think it's a very good idea to get out there and be a part of, giving to that. We have like a lot of nonprofits. We always are trying to do things for people in the community. We have all kinds of organizations here, and just I would get involved in those things first and learn and respect how our community and county work. Mm-hmm. And while you're trying to get your, and then, at the same time, continue helping people,
Yeah.
and that, also get your business off the ground, you're going to get a lot more insight into how to be successful and how things, because you're going to understand how things work. And if you live in this community and you give to the community and you're not a jerk, then people are going to help you.
Yep.
They're going to want you to succeed, and that benefits everyone.
Yep.
Including them
Yep.
ultimately. But I do know people that come in here and try to strong arm and tell people what to do and whatever, and they don't, and they pretend to, be a part of, the giving side of our community. It's not really a side. It is, I would say, it's an identity that we have here in Brevard County, and they, and they're not going to get as far as fast.
Yep. I agree with that sentiment. There are people that give to get. I gave, so I get. There are people that give to give.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Exactly. And so you're not going to, I don't think in this community, sure, you can give to get, and they're going to take, whatever you want to give, but, people are just not idiots, and they
Right.
know what your intentions are, and they can see your heart. And
Yeah.
if it is, if it's not in the right place, you're still not going to get as far and
Yeah.
as fast.
Yeah.
You might get somewhere, but you're really selling yourself short, ultimately, and the community.
Yeah.
So, but I do think people want people to be successful in this community, and they do whatever they can to help them. But I think intentions matter.
100%.
Powerful advice, Misty.
That's good stuff.
And thank you for sharing your experience.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Cheers
of course,
to Misty.
yeah.
So fun.
I hope, yeah, we had fun too. What?
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks for listening.